We have here the end of the Sermon on the Mount, and it is a fitting conclusion, as we see, because he has preached for 3 chapters of St. Matthew, and the bottom line is, are they listening? And he puts them and us therefore on our guard against illusion, possible illusion with regard to who is listening. We may think this is just for their time, but it's far more relevant than we might like to think. Just the other day, I was listening to a person's suffering, a person who had been in a different diocese altogether, somewhere down in Dublin, and had been at a celebration which was in some way for her family, and was quite taken aback by what the young priest was doing with the text. And from what she was telling me, he was modifying things so much, not excluding the formula of consecration, that it probably was not just illicit, but actually invalid. He was bringing in, obviously, some kind of agenda which he had there on some kind of photocopied sheet, but it sounded pretty radical, especially when she was coming out with the other things that he was saying right through the celebration. So here we have a case in point. What's going on? In the liturgical life and prayer, one is saying all the time, Lord, Lord. And then when it comes to the moment of honouring that Lord, what's going on? There is disobedience, and therefore the lordship of that Lord is being removed, to be replaced by the lordship of man. Now that is not just an isolated case. If one looks around, in many parts of the Catholic world, it is becoming pretty normal that it is presumed that an assembly can create its own liturgy, and that a priest can also be fairly imaginative. So what do we have here? Illusion. Illusion at the most intimate part of the Church's life. It's not dissimilar actually to a bad marriage. If one has, at the high points of the intimacy of marriage, the feeling, for instance, on the part of the wife that she is being used, that breaks on the deepest level the bonding of intimacy. It then becomes almost external with regard to the depth of heart and soul that should be exchanged. So, transpose that to the life of the Church. If we have massively, in our encounters with heaven, an encounter which is so orientated towards performance that the one that we're actually bowing down to and acknowledging the lordship of is no longer really centre stage, but we are, there's something seriously ill in the deepest life of a parish or community, if that is an ongoing process never addressed. And then we complain, oh, people aren't coming to church. Oh, we complain, the connections are going down. What shall we do? We shall think of some great spectacular means of getting them back. I know a good one, the Alpha course. Where's it coming from? Anglicanism. Basically, tone down the gospel in its Catholic fullness. Just a few years ago, I was asked to give a retreat for the Eucharistic adorers of the Diocese of Meath in one of the largest parishes of the diocese. Tullamore. I got there, and what did I find? People hanging around in a room. On the table I found a pyx, and in it was a host, which obviously was a consecrated host. The Lord, with this 100 or so adorers, was being placed in this room. What was going on in church? There was a big screen in the sanctuary area with the Alpha course going on, which had pride of place, a great gimmick for getting people into church. But the Lord had been taken out of church and put in a parish room while people sat and talked. Adorers? Question mark. Now, this is symptomatic of what is actually going on in the life of the church right now. We think we know better than Christ teaching in the official organ of the Church's liturgy and catechetical body of doctrine. In practice, doing what he says means doing what he says through, e.g., the Missal, canon law, the documents officially given to us by the Vatican. They're quite clear. There's room for elasticity within certain parameters, well defined, but they're given. And we cannot expect the Lord to bless what is not in his divine will. Look around a bit, and what does he bless? He blesses assemblies where the contrary is happening, often without fuss or bother, but where people calmly take refuge, or at least they know what to expect. No one will shock them. They'll be allowed to pray without being talked to. They'll have the sacraments in their fullness, celebrated also in that mode that their heart of hearts tell them is correct. They won't be aggressed when they receive it kneeling, as their heart tells them to, or on the tongue, as their soul indicates really it should be, if we're honouring the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So maybe if we started from that end, asking on our knees, what does the Lord want to fill his church? And not think we can invent something more spectacular than the parish next to us.